that should be getting started now. Um, so yes, so I guess good evening, everyone. My name is Shanika. I'm the current Atlanta chapter president. And to introduce BDPA Atlanta, so we're a membership organization that focuses on exposure for our community, so exposing our community to various technology trends. I guess also various groups. So I know like last week there was a another cybersecurity, I believe, like 1 day conference that was happening here, and through BDPA we were able to invite some folks to attend. And in addition to our STEM programming, I mean, in addition to our I guess the membership organization. So we offer a STEM program that's been running for I think uh, kind of since about February now. So we've been prepping that for students to participate in the conference that's coming up in August. The conference I believe is August 1st through 3rd, and I can drop links to these things as well. Um, in addition to our conference, we have like monthly meetings that we have here. So typically we have them on the third Wednesday of the month. The third Wednesday of this month was Juneteenth, so we're like, let's push a week. So thanks everyone for your flexibility. And but our next session will be, I believe, July 17th. And I think that's the third Wednesday of the month. Yeah, July 17th. But typically the third Wednesday of the month we'll have our monthly sessions that are on various topics, as this week will be on cybersecurity. In addition to, I believe, that, so yeah, STEM programming, our monthly meetings, conference. I think that might be most of it. I'll drop links to more details for BDPA. Feel free to get involved. I guess one last thing that I wanted to say too, I haven't heard any specific details on um, volunteer needs for the conference, but I'm sure things will come up. So if you are, I guess, interested in volunteering at the conference, again, feel free to connect with the Atlanta chapter, and I'm sure we can connect you with those that are more organizing the conference. So with that, I'll hand it over to John to introduce our speaker.
That sounds great. So quick question for you on so you're speaking about the National BDPA conference, which is held in Atlanta.
Yes,
That's
yes.
in August. Do you have those dates? Sorry to put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
yeah. I believe it should be August 1st through 3rd. Let me also drop
August
it in the
1st through
chat.
3rd. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Just
August 1st to 3rd. And yep, we'll be downtown Atlanta. And I get mixed up on the specific hotel, but basically like all the hotels downtown are like, I don't know, 5 minute walks from each other. So but it
yeah,
will be downtown. So that's, I think that's
yeah.
the key part, is it will be downtown Atlanta and it'll be August 1st through 3rd. But yeah, I can drop that link, and yeah, I'll hand it over to you, John.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Shanika. So I'm John Beret. Have had the honor of partnering with BDPA Atlanta for a long time. The last 4 years, bringing content and speakers and expertise to the monthly meeting. Tonight we have a great person, a great friend, a great topic, and a lot of knowledge coming at you. So, yeah, Ken, I feel bad. We have a small crew here tonight where I think this topic normally would have been a much larger crew. So, um, you know, we probably should have seen the schedule long ago and kind of made that adjustment. So, apologies to you on that,
No
and
problem.
also just the month of the year that it is too. There's so many people that are on vacation right now too. So next year, as we're building this out, if you're gracious enough to return and come back to us, we'll pick a month, maybe not in the summer when everyone's on vacation. How about that?
No
Uh,
problem.
so, anyways, but so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about Ken. So, believe it or not, Ken and I were neighbors. Um, I don't know what was that, Ken? Maybe 24 years ago. We lived in the same
It's
neighborhood.
been a
So
long time. Yeah.
we were running amok in our hood together. Met each other there, and then somehow we ended up working for the same company around that same time as well. And from there, Ken's done a lot of great consulting work. He's worked for a lot of really good consulting firms and done a lot of PMO and program type work. and eventually has found, I think, his sweet spot here in cybersecurity. He's the CEO of Relate Central. Um, and I'll let Ken, talk a little bit more about Relate, and what they do, what their offerings are. Um, but Ken also has been a longtime BDPA member and supporter and winner of awards with our group as well. So I'm going to stop talking and flip it over to you, Ken. But
Yeah.
thank you again for being with us. So appreciate your friendship and you willing to give back like this. So
No, well,
thanks.
thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Shanika. And thank you to Anthony and Charles and the other team members that might be here today. But really, I want to talk about cybersecurity and the latest trends and how you can enter cybersecurity and really make it a career. And so I'm really excited to talk about that a little bit because this is a cool area that I think everyone can really get involved in. But as John has said, I am a 30-year tech expert. For over 30 years, I've been really a trusted partner to various C-suite executives, helping them achieve their goals through either providing IT talent or really just delivering solutions from their requirements. Currently, I'm pursuing my doctorate degree at Georgia State. My thesis topic is actually around cybersecurity. So that's the reason why, I really have this organization called Relay Central, because cybersecurity, I think, is really very close to AI in terms of one of the hot topics. And so I'm hoping that I can share a little bit around cybersecurity today and really kind of get folks engaged and get excited about maybe exploring. I earned a master's degree in project management as well as a bachelor's degree in computer science while also being PMP certified and Scrum Master. But it's not about me. It's about really today's topic. And really before I get into it, want to just kind of give a definition of what is cybersecurity, because a lot of people hear about cybersecurity, but really just want to highlight, like what exactly it is. And so cybersecurity really is the practice of protecting systems and networks and programs from really digital attacks, cyber attacks. And so these attacks are usually aimed at accessing, changing, or really destroying sensitive information to really interrupt, disrupt normal business activities. And so cybersecurity involves implementing various tools, various protocols to really defend against threats, including your hardware, software, breaches, as well as identity theft. But there are 6 key components of cybersecurity I would like to highlight. And one is network security, which is really focusing on protecting your networks from intrusion. And so really that is really just trying to make from your networks to really be secure. Application security is really around software and applications. And interesting enough, me as an IT developer, when I really started my career, security really wasn't really a thing other than making sure that your code was really kind of developed in a well manner. But in addition to that, we really weren't really accessing the internet. And so right now we have a lot of legacy applications that are out there that are really potentially exposed. And so that's really where application security comes in play. Information security really is protecting the integrity and the privacy of our data. Operation security is really managing and protecting data handling processing. And disaster recovery and business continuity. That's really planning for data recovery as well as business operations continuity in event that an actual cyber attack occur. And then lastly, but still important, end user education. That's really training users to really recognize to avoid threats. What is the importance of cybersecurity? So I highlighted four things here, or four areas, really. Protection of sensitive data. And really what I'm focusing here on is cybersecurity really helps protect your personal information from being either stolen or misused. And that really is including financial details as well as our social security numbers, our health records, just to highlight a few. Also, too, preventing financial loss. And really, cybersecurity really helps prevent attacks, which could include preventing access to our money. And this really could be devastating from a personal and or from a business standpoint. And I saw a recent report that just came out, and it said that cybersecurity crime is expected to cost the world about 10 trillion annually by next year. And that's not like a one-time thing, but that's really annually, year after year. And so this is really an important area, important topic, not only for businesses, but us personally as well. Maintaining business operations. Cybersecurity helps prevent attacks that could disrupt a business, leading to downtime or really loss of productivity. And then lastly, to sum it up, protecting national security. And we're going to be having an election coming up. Definitely, in terms of the polls, that's an area. But also, cybersecurity helps us in protecting our critical infrastructure that we really take for granted that is always going to be available, such as power grids, communication networks, and interesting enough, even water from threats. I was just in a meeting today with a potential client from Toronto, and they're concerned about threats being attacked from their water supply. So when we talk about cybersecurity, I know a lot of the topics or a lot of the areas we might be hearing about email phishing or ransomware or something like that, but cybersecurity nowadays is really a fundamental area in which is national and global, and it can really disrupt our way of life. I know just in Atlanta, there was a water main break. So that wasn't cybersecurity, but the various organizations and people in their homes actually did not have access to water. But just imagine if an attacker, got access to our water, and a couple things could happen. They could stop it from actually for us getting access to it, or even worse, they could change the different ingredients that the various water treatment plants use to make it clean and actually infect us all. So sometimes sounds pretty scary. I highlighted here just to really show, as you can see, there are many types of attacks when it comes to cybersecurity. And I would say ransomware and email phishing, as I shared before, are probably the most common. We are, hearing a lot of them, but there are many other types of cybersecurity attacks, but not going to really explore all of them because really each and every one of them is a topic on itself. But I just wanted to highlight that there are a vast array of attacks that actually can occur. And I would say intruders are always getting even more and more creative. So there'll probably be even more. But I also wanted to highlight there are three distinct ways of intruder attacks. One is your physical, and that was really what we used to really focus on before we really got into the internet in the late 90s. So physical was really all about if you had a store, you would have a police guard, you might have some cameras, you might have those things. We all have security within our homes, but that's just one. The next is, and which is what I call like a silent one, is really insider intrusion or an insider threat. And that is an area in where you have some employee that might not necessarily be happy with the organization. And they actually may share some sensitive ways of actually getting into the organization and causing some type of a cyber attack. And then lastly, which is the big one, which is also cyber. So it's really cyber or internet from that standpoint. So there are three different ways that we actually are able to get hacked into. There are several different roles within the cybersecurity realm. And so really what I wanted to highlight here is that individuals who are in IT or individuals who might be a business analyst or they might be a tester, a lot of what we currently are doing right now can actually even transfer into the cybersecurity area. So for example, you're a security analyst. This right here is monitoring your networks, your breaches, you're doing breaches, investigating, you're doing penetration testing. But this could be actually someone who actually was a quality assurance analyst. And so this could easily transfer into being a security analyst. The next one is a security engineer, where you're doing your designing and implementing and maintaining the security infrastructure, developing a variety of different security measures for the IT system. This could be an actual engineer, developer engineer, et cetera, who could easily transfer here. The same for what I would say you're a security network, security architect, designing secure systems and networks, et cetera. And is also leading up to individuals who are in that higher level to transfer from a VP or a CIO to a CISO. So really, I wanted to highlight here that cybersecurity is another area that we all can actually engage ourselves in to really make ourselves more marketable and also allow for us to have other opportunities that we may not actually have right now. And I know, Anthony, you were sharing some of the certifications that you have achieved. These are a variety of different certifications that no matter at what level you're at, you can actually get access and really make yourself marketable. So for example, the CompTIA Security Plus one, that's like your entry level one where you can actually get in, very, very quickly. But then you also have what they call the Certified Information Systems Security Professional. And that is for individuals who might want to focus on from a technical or manager type of one. The same thing for your CISM, that's for manager as well. Individuals who are into quality assurance or auditing, you could be working on your CISA one. All the way down to your cloud security professional from that standpoint. So these are what I would say a variety of different certifications that an individual can actually achieve to make themselves marketable within the cybersecurity realm. And so, interesting enough, within this particular field, cybersecurity certifications are seen more valuable than, let's say, if you went to get a business degree in cybersecurity or a master's in cybersecurity. So this is really good news in the sense of you can still maintain your current degree, but then if you actually get these certifications, you can actually still make yourself more marketable from that standpoint. Now, let's talk money. The median salary for a cybersecurity professional in North America is about $134,000. In the US, you're talking like $135,000. So that's really, really good money. And I'm really highlighting that is because, as I shared with you before, there are certifications that you can achieve. And then even when you get those certifications, the various organizations, when they are looking for talent within this particular field, those certifications are very, very marketable And you can actually even leverage your current skill that you might have. Let's say you're a developer, you become a cybersecurity engineer, or let's say you're an analyst, you become a cybersecurity analyst. From that standpoint, making yourself that much more marketable within the industry. Now, just wanted to highlight some of the top 3 challenges cybersecurity folks are facing, and that is really not enough resources. And so this is really good news for us because right now there is a lack of cybersecurity talent. And so that's why I was really sharing with you different ways in which you can actually get into this field. Also, too, cybersecurity insider threats are one of the other key challenges. And that's because that's really hard to solve because these are potential employees that might not necessarily be happy with the organization, and they're really hard to spot. Lots of times when a threat is coming in where you have hackers or attackers, you can spot that, but it's very hard to spot an insider threat. And then lastly, just really keeping up with the newer technology trends such as AI or governmental changes. Now, when you are looking to identify certifications, there are a couple of areas that are actually hot from that standpoint. And one is cloud computing security. And from that standpoint, that is a good area in which an individual could get into. AI and ML as relates to cybersecurity is another one. Zero trust implementations is another one. And then you have penetration testing. So just want to really highlight to you kind of like these are some of the top hot areas from the current state within the cybersecurity realm. The global cybersecurity workforce right now is about 5.5 million, which represent an 8% increase year over year, which really is translating into about 400,000 new jobs. Employees are looking for resources. So that's really good news. And then what's even good news as well, despite the continued growth of that, the demand is still, from a resource standpoint, outpacing the supply. So what that's really saying is that if you actually are interested in a new potential career field within the cybersecurity space, getting a certification, you can actually have another area as it relates to getting a new career path. And this is really a good time to do it from that standpoint. Some of the top 10 cybersecurity skill gaps. I'll really just talk about the top 3 because I shared with you before, which is cloud computing. And really cloud computing is really the protection of cloud-based networks that enables continuous monitoring and analysis of newest devices. And then you have AI, which is what we call automating the threat detection. And so really where AI is really coming into play is that there are thousands of different alerts that organizations are experiencing. And so what AI is really doing, it's really helping to kind of weed through all the alerts to really pinpoint and identify which is the right particular threat to really focus on. Because when a team or organization is sitting there and they're getting thousands of various threats coming in, they can't really touch them all. So really AI has really been doing a really good job in that space of really trying to help detect and really say, okay, focus on this particular area right here, because that's really an area of potential need. Zero trust security. really what this is talking about is really that no one is really trusted by default from inside or outside your network. But then another area I would say that we probably have heard about this particular area is really called MFA, or what you call multi-factor authentication. So that's when you actually have you're logging in somewhere, and then it also is pushing back to say, hey, it's going to your various email, and then you have to put in a code. So that really is just saying, okay, no matter if you have a company employee ID or email or anything like that, we're still not going to trust you. So that's really where that zero trust security is really coming into play. Uh, some of the merging cybersecurity technologies that's really having a really big impact is automation. And that's really sort of like what I was sharing with you just a second ago. And that is really automating all of the various detection and really trying to identify and really highlight, okay, here is what to really focus on from a cybersecurity standpoint. And then also automating as it relates to putting the various patches in the various networks to make sure that everything's secure. And then zero trust is hot, as well as AI and ML is really hot. Um, hiring, the hiring manager as it relates to talent source. I would say right now they are, when you're looking for a job from that standpoint, or when a hiring manager is looking for cybersecurity resources, they're going to staffing or recruitment organizations like Motion to really identify that. And then they're really also focusing on certification organizations. So let's say if when you got your certification and you get certified, organizations or hiring managers are actually going to those particular platforms that where you got your certification. So that's another area where once you get it, you can promote yourself, and then also to colleges and universities, as well as the standard job postings, as well as internships and programs of such as like that. There are many available resources to actually get certified, and many of them are actually free. So what I can do is maybe either if I have some time, I can maybe send that to you over in the chat. But if not, Shanika, I can share it with the individuals here. But you can actually get certified for free in certain areas to really make yourself more marketable. So there's an organization called ISC2, and they are actually providing various certification modules where you can actually get certified. So the organization that I founded last year is Relate Central. And so we really provide a variety of different services, which is we also provide IT resources to various organizations. We do secure application development. We do VSO as a service. We do automation, just to kind of share a little about what we do. And so if as you are here today and you're certified, you can definitely reach out to myself as well as even JV for any opportunities as relates to cybersecurity that you might have a need for. So with that, I will open up the floor for any questions.
Hey, so I had a question, Ken.
Yes, sir.
As far as cloud computing goes, which cloud software do you recommend someone breaking into the industry get certified in first? AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud?
So that's really a tough question, but you can't go wrong with Microsoft.
Okay.
AWS is a good one. Google is a good one. But interesting enough, if you focus on Microsoft, what will happen is when you work with an organization, they're probably going to have Microsoft products. and then they're probably going to have your AWS and Google as well. So if you went with Microsoft, there, you can't really go wrong there from that standpoint.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ken, it seems like every I don't know, every hour someone's talking about AI and what are we going to do with this? I know you touched on it a little bit, but as maybe just your high level thoughts on the bridge of AI and cybersecurity, and some of the trends maybe that you see coming up, like maybe just to touch on that a little bit more, if that.
Sure. Sure. Well, right now, as it relates to AI, what the intersect within cybersecurity really is, it's being able to leverage the AI technologies to really help decipher and really identify the different threats that are coming in.
Yeah.
Right now, one of the key issues within the particular space is that organizations are really just inundated with so many different threats, and so they don't have enough manpower for, number one, to look at all that, but then number two, I just share with you that there's even a shortage of manpower.
Yeah.
So really, that's where AI is really coming into play, and they're different. There are lots of different tools that that are being developed that's allowing the various organizations to really help in that capacity. There's paid tools, and there's even open source tools as well. And so there really isn't like one particular tool to really help in that. It's really based on the environment that you're in. And then it will also depend on maybe what you have more experience in. And then the last one would be, from a cost standpoint, how much do you want to pay? So that's really where AI has really been helping cybersecurity do well in.
Do you see so much demand, right? Do you see with your clients, um, are they building out more internal teams, security teams, or is there a trend? Do you think more companies will outsource or just rely more heavily on consulting companies like yours to provide like the bulk of the cybersecurity protection that they want? Or is it somewhere in between? Depends on the size of the company. What, maybe your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I'll use one, JP Morgan. JP
Okay.
Morgan, they're going to have their cybersecurity team in-house.
Okay.
So they're not gonna really outsource or anything like that.
And why would they do that? Like, what is it?
It's just because from a financial institution, they're just going to say, okay, I want to own that, and I don't want to have any additional go between that organization.
Any more risk? I guess risk,
From a
right?
risk standpoint.
Yeah.
Now you have your mid-sized organizations. So those organizations are around 200, 300 or whatever, they'll outsource it. So for example, another service that we're providing is third-party risk management. And so there's an organization who has a software product. And so there are various questionnaires that actually they have to fill out. And so what they've done is they've outsourced that questionnaire component to really help in their process, because they're getting tons of those. And so when they're getting tons of those, sometimes they're current clients, or there might be clients that they're trying to do business with. So instead of them actually having like a 10-man team trying to support that, they've outsourced that. And so, that's one area for outsourcing. And then also too, they will outsource their monitoring and support from that standpoint, only because they don't really, that's not really what they do. And then in addition to that, the expertise is not in their spot. And so they'll take that out from that standpoint. So it just really depends. From my point of view so far, it's really just been depending on the size.
Yeah.
The larger, from a revenue standpoint, they won't touch it. And then also too, they'll have a CISO. They'll have all these other different layers that they will be covered. But your mid-sized company is not going to have a CISO. And so there'll be a vice president or a director that's really doing everything. So they're like the CISO, they're the QA, they're the application developer. You know, they're all application. They're like all those things in one. And then they'll identify or allocate a senior, let's say, engineer or a senior analyst, or you know, from that standpoint, to say, okay, you're going to manage my cybersecurity components. You're going to handle my network from that standpoint.
Gotcha. Yeah. So someone say like Anthony that's going through his journey, and when he's ready to hit the market and, you know, get his first opportunity coming out, internal full-time, you know, FTE positions would likely be with large organizations. But then there'll also be a lot of opportunity, and less at the small and mid-sized companies, because they're going to be leaning more on consulting companies. And so the likelihood for someone like Anthony, he'll see possibly more opportunities for consulting companies, employment with consulting companies, than these big, you know, there's only so many big companies, right? So
Sure.
So yeah, just from an expectation standpoint, like as he's coming out, like just trying to put yourself, you know, in his seat and what he would see.
Sure. So definitely, if Anthony was just coming out working with a large organization, would actually be ideal, because at that point there are many resources there, and he could actually grow from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Then what will happen is, as he gets more experience, he can then move into, let's say, that mid-tier. And so at that point, he will be responsible, but then he'll also have the outsource component. So even though an organization will outsource it to us, there's still always a team or two member that is senior, that is our bridge into the organization. So it's not like we're just totally all in.
Yeah.
There's still that bridge there. But JV, what I also really want to highlight this evening, and that's really why I put the twist on really talking about the different roles, is that I believe that because right now, and it probably won't be like this all the time, there are ways in which you can get certified for free in certain areas. For us to actually go and get that certificate now, it's just a matter of time. So you don't have to worry about paying money. It's a matter of your time just going through that process. And then also look at the different roles that I highlighted and target that, so that your current skill that you're currently working in can be a bridge in. So let's say if I was a business analyst or a QA analyst, and then I went and got certified as a cybersecurity analyst. And so now when you're actually going into the actual market field, when you are talking about cybersecurity, you're leveraging your existing experience on top of that. And so that's where the potential bridge can actually move into. And then also too, in addition to that, what I also highlighted is that many of the applications that exist right now haven't really been developed in a cybersecurity in mind. So right now you have code that's out there that could actually be hacked, only because it really wasn't developed like that. But what's happening now is, when we're developing new code, we're leveraging the tools, the platforms for when we develop, it's actually built on top of a cybersecurity platform. And then it gets pushed out to the market. And at that point, it's a lot more secure. So I really see there's a lot of area there. Developers, if they were able to actually learn So let's talk about developers. Let's say you're a developer and then you learn some of the different platforms and you learn different techniques. That's going to make you a little bit more unique, and make yourself more marketable. Because right now, JV, you could probably talk to one of your developers that you're working with. And if you talk to them or just ask them a question a little bit about cybersecurity or platforms, they might give you a little blank stare. And it's only because right now that's really not what, from a development standpoint, the focus. It's really focusing on your coding. It's, focusing on making sure that there are not any bugs within your coding. But right now, we're not going to go backwards in terms of where we are, but we're going to always be going forward. And then your cybersecurity attackers are going to get even more smarter. So that's essentially what I see from a trend standpoint. So I would say really from a trend, that's where your developers really need to be looking at making sure that they understand the cybersecurity application development platforms, as well as when they understand that, to be able to code within that. And then also too, from a trend standpoint, what I see, whether you're a business analyst or a Q analyst, to really get that certification so you can understand how that actually integrates into your current realm.
Good stuff. Great insight. Do you think, because there'll probably be in our group, there's I think our group has kind of a heavy app dev centric membership. Do you see, as people look to pursue, do you think there'll be more of a heavy pull from the app dev community versus, say, people that are we would maybe label them as infrastructure people, sysadmins, sysengineers, that maybe years ago we would have thought, oh, that would have been more the natural progression, if you will, sysadmin, sysengineer, that they would be the ones to go into security because it would kind of fit within that world, if you will. But it seems like developers and just writing scripts and all of that is so key to all of this, that it might be more of a heavy pull from app dev people. Do you see it that way, or?
So within the various roles, you have a cybersecurity engineer.
Yeah.
And so that's where that network engineer would transition, from that standpoint. Interesting enough, JB, for all of the different roles from an app dev standpoint, there is actually a transition into cybersecurity. But to answer your point, yes, I believe that as relates to the app dev, if you're in app dev, you're going to need to understand the cybersecurity ecospace as relates to the area in which you are in app dev, whether it's QA, BA, PM, or dev. You're going to need to understand that. And so, but here's the other trend. The other trend is that there are not enough of people who actually has that skill. So, that trend has actually been going on for many years. So it's not like, just like, 2024, this is, what the trend is. For the last several years, this has been happening, and it really hasn't been getting a lot of play. Interesting enough, I mean, like even just like right now, we're talking about it. I mean, you may heard of it maybe once or twice, but for the most part, you don't really hear that. I'm pretty sure we can go to the BDPA organization conference this coming August, and I guarantee you, unless I'm presenting, that you're not going to really hear about, this particular area where there is a demand, and then with that demand, here is a way in which you can transition. So a lot of people are thinking that, cybersecurity, I don't know anything about it. And so therefore I'm just going to leave it alone. But what I wanted to highlight here today is that from a trend standpoint, here is a transition in which you can move to and just make yourself that much more marketable within the industry. And I believe that in addition to that, this is a next 10-year run. So
Yeah.
it can go longer than that, right? But right now it is easily a good 10-year run from that standpoint. Because like I said, there are apps out there that need to be rewritten, retested. That's one area. And then you have new apps that are going to constantly be written. And even though there is a cybersecurity department, when we are building and coding and testing, gone are the days when you just move your code in and then they test it. That's not how it is right now. You have to start out from the get-go because one, we're pushing code very quickly. And then two, those days are over when you actually had time to really kind of go through those different gatekeeps. We're not going through those gatekeeps anymore. We're agile. We're focusing on trying to get to market quicker. And so at that point, your application needs to have some type of a security in place. And that's where you're having some of these tools now where you're able to actually develop your code and test right on that platform that would actually put some of those things in place.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. I'm hogging all the questions, so I'm going to be quiet for a bit.
Yeah, no problem. No, I think those were great questions because I think I'm hoping today that I can maybe spark some light bulbs, provide some encouragement, also be able to spark it where maybe they go out and take advantage of some of these free training courses. Anthony, have you seen some of those free training courses?
Yeah, that was actually my next question was what so I'm trying to ask more people this. What tools are your intro people using? Such as like, so for me, for example, I'm really interested in being a SOC analyst. So I've been doing a little bit of Splunk work on top of my coursework. What are some other tools, like maybe other SIEM tools or other tools that a cloud engineer or a security architect you would not expect, but they would be getting to train to use in their intro position that I could get ahead in now?
Well, there are tons of SIM tools. Splunk you can't go wrong with because once you know that one, then a lot of the other SIM tools that are out there, you're going to be able to actually transition. And if you're talking about making yourself marketable, Splunk is one of those areas in which you would do that. I would say stick with that as your base, as your go-to. And then when you go into those organizations, you then learn some of the ones that they have. The one thing that I've seen from a trend standpoint, you can't go wrong if you're focusing on or the kind of leading organizations or leading tools. You can't go wrong with that.
Gotcha.
And Ken and Anthony, if I can add to that, this is Charles, by the way.
Hey, Charles.
I wholeheartedly agree with what Ken stated. You can't go wrong with Splunk. Reason I say that because I recently became a Splunk partner, still a young company, so I'm trying to really get further along as far as being having it as part of my consultancy. And one of the things I like about Splunk, I work with it in the DevOps environment. It's a pretty good tool as far as doing whatever you want to do as far as monitoring systems based in the SIEM arena. But the thing I wanted to convey to Anthony is that Splunk has free training that you can take advantage of. And you can go to the website and look at it. And I think it had maybe like 21 different courses that allow you to learn Splunk. And if you look at their certifications, they have a certification path, various areas like cybersecurity defense, SOAR administration, threat intelligence, core user for Splunk, just a whole lot of different things that pertain to Splunk. And for example, since I'm a partner with them now, I'm specialized in cybersecurity defense analysis, and they got a new certification coming out for cybersecurity defense engineer. And that is something that if you look at how they set the curriculums up, it demands that you have a good foundational knowledge of Splunk as well as have a good knowledge of SOC operations. So that might be something you want to look at. Just go check out the website.
Yeah, so that's our plan in the class. Well, me and my classmates that are focused on the SOC, because one of the programs that we use for the program is called Range Force. They have a bunch of modules on there, but we lose access to that in about the next month. So our current plan is to go through the Range Force modules because they have learning paths for like intro to cybersecurity, SOC analyst, cloud engineer, and then they have a Splunk one as well. Though that also generate badges for LinkedIn. So we are going to go through those first, and then just because we lose access to that before the free
Well,
access to
I,
Splunk. So
I I would say just stay in range for it as long as you can, but don't worry about losing access to it
okay.
because there's other resources you can look at. Like for example, Coursera has some stuff you can look at for Splunk. It might
Okay.
be either free or some small monthly fee. And also, there's a website called Try Hack Me. They actually have a
signed
SOC.
up for that.
They actually have a pardon.
I'm signed up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually have a SOC analyst curriculum that allows you to have various Splunk labs. And I was checking it out last night. They actually had task related training to where you actually seems like you're actually emulating SOC operations, and it's either free or very low cost. So I think it's maybe like $10 a month. I got to go back and look at it. But like Ken said, there's a plethora of free training out there. You got to look, just go out there and look. You can even look at some of what state of Georgia offers, as well as excuse me, as well as the Fed, what they offer. If you go out to some like the NIST website or some of the DoD's websites, they have things you can look at. Georgia has something. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kim, but they have something like a cyber security command. That
They do.
Yeah, something like that, and you can actually go out and take free training from them via Cisco. And Cisco has like a cyber security defense analyst component to theirs for certification. So plenty of training out there.
Gotcha. I just wrote all those down. Thank you, Charles.
So
You're welcome.
thank you, Charles, as well. And I will say what is unique about cybersecurity right now as relates to the industry is that, as you heard, there's a lot of free training. And I believe the reason why that free training exists is because the demand to actually learn or be understanding around this particular topic is great. In all my years in the IT space, I really never heard of free certifications. You know, you always would have to pay for that. And so when you talk about trend, you know, I would say, you know, now is the time to make sure that you take advantage of that because it's not going to always be free right now. And so if you can leverage it, get one or two, even if you don't use it, you know, it's still good to be marketable within your particular resume.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was looking back at the roles. I was able to basically, being admin, I can scroll back through the presentation on YouTube. But so for those roles, are they, because there's like so many different ones, is there like for each one, is there kind of a hierarchy for, kind of growing in your career for those, or do you grow out of that space pretty easily and you have to kind of move to some of those other ones?
So it really is focusing on you as the individual. You know, I would say right now, the way this is kind of lined up, you know, analyst, engineer, you know, architect, you know, engineer, architect, you know, that's definitely a transition from that standpoint. I would say analyst, incident responder, you know, somewhere around, you know, penetration tester, you know, those kind of line, you know, together. And then you have your, you know, security software developer, you know, kind of transition from, you know, an app developer, you know, so I would say what will happen is depending on where you are, you would kind of stay within that, but then you would become like a senior security analyst, or from that standpoint, maybe you're managing over a team of security analysts. That's kind of like how I believe things are moving. And the same thing like with engineer, you're gonna be like a senior engineer, and then you're gonna be like maybe a team engineer manager or something like that. That's where I see the progressions. Because like, for example, like myself, if I take cybersecurity out, and because we have all the roles as well, but from a developer, people do move to like an analyst, but not really, right? They kind of move from a developer to a senior developer to then a manager of development. That's kind of like the transition that typically occurs, and that's essentially the same here, with a few other things that I just mentioned. It could be like an analyst, a penetration tester, or a responder. Those kind of could tie together. But for the most part, you're going to really just move up in seniority around it, and you're going to stay as a seasoned person within that space. So Shanika, so your background, what's your background in right now?
Yeah,
I know,
background is
I know
software developer.
I know you're moving and shaking over there.
Oh, it's probably just my camera's not that great. But yeah, my background is as a software developer.
Software developer.
Yeah.
Okay. So right here you have your security. You could potentially be like a security consultant, security software developer, security engineer. I mean, I could see, I could see where, you could actually work in any of those areas right there. And then as time progressed, you could even transition to a CISO. So, that's where you can eat from an engineer, a developer, you can even transition to that. Because here's a trend. Here's another trend. What I have seen before now, most of the individuals as relates to cybersecurity don't have a application development background.
Mm-hmm.
They typically start out from a network engineering standpoint. But I'm trying to push a trend and call out all my application IS developer community, move into that space and add an additional base to the cybersecurity space within that area. And when you do that, you will actually be that much more marketable, because like I said, most of the people that are in this space right now, JB, as you were saying before, they're starting out as network analysts, kind of, help desk, and they kind of work their way there. But yeah. I believe from a trend standpoint, that's going to go away. That will change really soon.
Do you think this is like probably too much of a sweeping statement, but when we think about like how we set up specialty recruiting teams that pipeline candidates and nurture relationships so that when our clients say, hey, can you help us find a developer? We're like, yeah, we're in that community. So how we have that set up is we have an open source app dev recruiting team, and then we have a Microsoft centric app dev team. Are there advantages like in this trend as you kind of look out? Is there any difference or any advantages one way or another? Would it be better for someone to come from like an open source app dev background and then go into cybersecurity, or is it better for them to be a Microsoft centric, or really makes no difference?
So I thought you were going to go and say that because you have an open source kind of area where you focus on that should you focus on just having a cybersecurity focus. And I'm going to say, yes, there should be like a mini practice for that. Yeah. But then I'll also answer your question.
We do have cybersecurity is one of our special. We have about 7 or 8 lanes, if you will.
Mhm.
And just so that supports your theme here tonight is that demand is very large and the shortage of candidates is very real in cybersecurity. So yeah, it's definitely, this is a good place to be. So Anthony, you picked the right, one of the right places to be. So
Yeah,
so to go ahead, Anthony.
our program is actually due to that need. So we got a grant from, well, the City of Refuge, who hosts the program. They got a grant from the Department of Labor to train Atlanta citizens in cybersecurity. So we're the 6th cohort to come through this program.
yeah.
So there's definitely a need for it. I'm seeing the need for it more and more. Like today in class, we talked about is it CDK or CGK? How they had 2 attacks last week and over 15,000 dealerships across the country
Oh
were
yeah, yeah.
unable to use any of their systems.
Right.
Canadian car dealership situation. Yep.
So answer your question. I would say right now there really isn't a answer to say it should be Microsoft or open source or anything like that, because there are tons of open source cybersecurity tools out there.
Yeah.
What I would say, and this could be an area for helping bridge that the demand, is really implementing some type of a program where you have some developers or some business analysts or whatever who has a desire or interest, and it's from there to try and provide some training from that standpoint, and then providing that market ability of you having certain number of candidates to market. So to me, that would be a market strategy as relates to filling the demand from that standpoint.
Makes sense.
I had a question kind of related to generative AI. What roles or what functions do you feel? We may have touched on this earlier, but what functions do you feel like in cybersecurity AI would help benefit with, as, as a not as opposed to, aside from just kind of regular monitoring? I was trying to think of it today because we talked about that in class. What ways can AI help in cybersecurity? And I
Sure.
couldn't really brainstorm anything aside from just regular monitoring.
Sure. So I mentioned to you before that we have a client that we are doing third-party risk management for.
Mm-hmm.
And so this particular area is a really good area that generative AI could really play a good part in. And how you do that is you're actually taking what we are currently manually doing with our resources and leveraging generative AI to create a database in which pretty much we could replace the team members that we currently have with creating this tool, and then really replacing our resources with prompt engineers, 1 or 2 prompt engineers, and that's where your Gen AI can come into play in this particular space.
Yeah, I've been seeing prompt engineers being more and more of a prominent position coming up.
Yeah.
Knowing what to tell, knowing what to tell the AI to do. Like as I was studying for Network Plus, I took the objectives list from CompTIA, put it in the Chat GBT, but then a classmate of mine showed me that you can tell it to explain it to you as if you're a 3rd grader, and it'll give you a more detailed description of it. So just like that's a simple concept as far as that goes, but definitely a prompt engineer, I feel like, is going to be a position that's more and more prominent as AI becomes more and more prominent.
The prompt engineer role is going to be a critical role because right now you have so much data and you have so much access, but it's just like everything else. Just because you have access to it doesn't necessarily mean you know how to use it. And so that's where prompt engineering comes into play, where somebody can really be marketable in that aspect.
And everyone, for me, I see that having some experience with using generative AI is going to be good for all engineers. Because, for example, I created some code just to see what it would do. I created a web interface that generated all the components, JavaScript, libraries, style sheet libraries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it gave me a rudimentary output that worked, but it wasn't optimized. So I say that, yes, you can use generative AI to help you with your coding, but you're still going to have those software engineering / software development skills to make sure that it's optimized and is correct.
Totally agree. Right now, I would say this whole notion around generating the code, um, you still need that developer to really look at it and to be able to really make sure that it's going to do what you truly need it for it to be done.
Yeah, I think also with Gen AI, I think, yeah, definitely as Ken is saying, uh, like a lot of like the I think what I'm hearing is like they're like trained models. So things that are coming back is the kind of based on I guess like the probability of like these things potentially being true, but there's it's very probable that false things come out. So yeah, definitely not just taking what you get as like a real valid source of truth, especially also depending on like the Gen AI tool that you're using. I don't think all of them share like the sources that they're getting the content from as well, so it could be from anywhere. So so like taking it like as you like leverage anything on the internet, like taking it and depending on if it's coming from like a reputable source, then maybe you could trust it. But since you don't really know where it's coming from, taking your current knowledge and trying to assess from there, or maybe sharing with like someone that might have the expertise and could guide you to where like if this is true or not. Um, and then I could also see like it maybe helping with like troubleshooting some things. So if there's like common like security problems or vulnerabilities that can come up, um, like maybe just dropping those problems there and getting advice on how to like troubleshoot it could probably be helpful there too. I know for as a developer, I've been using it to help with like debugging sometimes. So yeah.
And this is a very timely subject today, Ken. I just want you to know that. And Shanika, you kind of hit on something that Ken kind of alluded to earlier, as far as having different skill sets come into play. Uh, Cybersecurity is actually forcing evaluations of the large language models that are used for generative AI, because there are threat actors out there that will actually create bad models to insert into whatever uh, environment, and it can actually send you back false information, and you're thinking that you're getting good information, but it is intentionally put there. So they got actual cybersecurity roles that are going out to evaluate those large language models to see if they're actually valid. What I've been reading.
Yeah, that is interesting, uh, because essentially we have so much access that sometimes because you have so much, you don't even realize what's really good or not, because we're almost getting lazy in a sense of, not really um, doing the thinking to making sure that what we're developing and we're just putting something out there to say, okay, we can do this quick. I would say what's still prominent is there are certain modules that you can pull from that are pretty solid, that you can leverage in your code. But definitely, Charles, to your point, I mean, we definitely need to be aware of that in terms of um, making sure we get and understand where that source is coming from.
Well, what a great conversation tonight, Ken. Thank you again. I don't know if you have, any kind of closing thoughts, or if there were any other questions. I didn't want to cut it short, but um, again, just want to thank you so much for being here with us. And while we have a small group, I have a feeling we'll get a lot of views on the recording when it's posted. So
No problem. I would say my only ending points or note would be that because BDPA is traditionally IT, part of what I wanted to do today is to really expose us to the cybersecurity and how we can actually begin to leverage our current knowledge around IT and being able to transition into cybersecurity to make yourself that much more marketable into the next 5 or 10 years that you have in your career.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Ken. As you were mentioning earlier, like light bulbs going off. Yeah, definitely some for me as well. I've definitely, yeah, I've been hearing cybersecurity for years, and the message I usually hear is that because it's like multidisciplinary, you can kind of anyone can get into it, but it's also good to kind of just really see this kind of like printed out here. It's like, yeah, these are like really some specific roles. So thanks for removing some of that ambiguity. So yeah,
There you go.
thanks.
There you go. You're welcome.
Cool. Well, yeah, I appreciate everyone that joined. Again, like the recordings are here, so you could definitely reference them later. I definitely encourage you to connect with all of us here. So Ken, I didn't drop like specifically my LinkedIn, but you could drop in the chat. I did drop the BDPA Atlanta LinkedIn there, and basically everyone here is pretty. Oh, I think Ken hit the wrong button, but
oh no.
but I think everyone that's here is pretty active also with like communicating on that channel. So if you wanted to kind of look for people's names through the BDPA Atlanta LinkedIn, that works too. But thanks everyone for joining, and have a good evening.
Yeah.
So
Good to
yeah,
see
thank you.
you. Take care.